Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live season finale of One Up Big Brother Season 3, Dreamscape. Okay, I don't even know where do we begin here. There's probably so much to discuss, so much to talk about. Season's coming to an end. All the votes are in. All the votes are locked. So we can finally freely share our opinions about everything that transpired this season. I know some of us are probably relieved that the season is over. Many of us are probably excited to enjoy the vacation until the next year. But I'll leave some thoughts and opinions. Sol, I know you have to leave here in about 20 minutes. If you want to give a little rundown on your thoughts, opinions.
Yeah, this was a season that it took a minute for me to start enjoying it. It was a bit of a mess, kind of, in my eyes. It was a bit train wrecky at points, and at a certain point, I just had to stop hoping it wouldn't be a train wreck and just start enjoying the train wreck. And once I did, I think it started to get better and better. And it was a very competitive bunch. I think it really paid off in that second half of the season. I thought it was very strong from the second triple on. I thought there's a lot of payoff for everything building up to that point. So yeah, it took a while for me to warm up to it, but I did end up enjoying the season a lot more than I would have thought I would earlier on in more of the still portions. But I think it was a unique season compared to the first two. I think it was a good season.
For sure. Nino, what are your thoughts?
Production obviously has thoughts, but I think that what I loved the most about this season is that I think most of us had, thoughts, opinions, or what we thought players were going to do. And I have to say, like, certain players really surprised us. And still, even though some moments, as Sol said, I'm going to second the fact that it was, train wrecky at times. I think that looking back on it, all of us can pinpoint, some enjoyable moments. So at the end of the day, it's still a season that I'm a numbers guy, so I'll always love just going back to look at all of the little numbers things, all of the little things.
Yeah. Oh gosh, where do I begin? I think I went into this season following season 2, which in my eyes was one of the most frustrating seasons I've ever hosted. Never in a sense that it was bad, but in the sense that it was so boring and a lot of the people were just kind of like never doing anything about kind of the predicament they were in. So I remember when casting this season, I went in with the single mindset of bring me a cast that's going to entertain me. I want to, I don't care. I knew it was going to be a train wreck, and I was fully embracing the fact that it was going to be one. But I was ready for it because I'm like, anything that can separate from kind of the snooze fest that was season 2 for me, it's only going to be, better onwards and upwards. I will say this season's been interesting. Like Sol said, the beginning of it was kind of snoozy. I think there was just a culture that was kind of curated during the season that festered into a lot of toxicity. You got to see a lot of the worst sides of every single person, whatever or wherever that happened, I don't know. And so I don't think it ever, went full on bullying, but it was definitely kind of this weird stigma that was kind of overlaying the house in the game itself that kind of manifested its way into just a lot of people just being dirty and gross at times. Which again, if I wanted a season like that, I got it. It is what it is. We had 2 expulsions this season. We had, a whole lot of riveting and discussion on politics. We had a lot of people who just didn't abide by the rules or might have been disrespectful to production itself. And I think when you have all these things kind of weighing in on this season, it's going to wear you out because I like to keep all my ducks in a row, and when the ducks start straying, it's hard to keep count of them. And that's exactly where I was at, where I think we were all a little just kind of discombobulated and disoriented, being like, I don't what is going on? But I will say, and that, the second triple eviction was really the saving grace. I think for the longest time, I was pretty set and stoned of being like, this is a very 1-star season. I was really okay with that being kind of what was going to happen. I was like, this is just not good. I think it was something that I could look back on more fondly later. But I really think that end game was the most exciting end game that we've had so far. And I do think this is a weird lightning in a bottle kind of season. Maybe not in the best ways as like a season 1. But I just think the culture and like everything surrounding the season was so niche in itself that it's going to be one where I think the people and production are going to look back on and be like, it was a train wreck, but it was our train wreck. And we're so glad that, we got to witness it. Because I don't think we're ever going to have another season like this, whether we like it or not. But that's just my overall outtake. I think we had some fun casting choices, some other casting choices who I wanted to go through my screen and strangle just because it was, I don't know. I think more so than any season, this has been a season of people where like they were genuinely doing nothing. And I was just like, what are we doing here? Why are we playing? And as a host, you were just like, do something. Just poke it with the stick. And so I'm not going to name names, but it was a little frustrating at times for sure. But that's all I'll say on that end. I'll give more in-depth discussion post-season if people are really curious on how I view them. I love all of you mostly. Even Dolan, who cheated, he ended up being my favorite house guest. But when it comes down to awards, I couldn't give someone who was expelled Nathan's favorite. So that was really hard for me to figure out how to maneuver. But yeah, I know it is what it is. That's all. Any other final thoughts before we start doing this lovely winner reveal and bring the finalists to the panel?
Not for me.
I think like this season definitely has its own identity, and it's one I think is going to age well, is what I'll say.
I'd agree.
It was a bit rough getting through it, but I think by the end of it, I appreciate the uniqueness that the season had compared to the first two. Like season 2 was definitely more big happy family. This was not a big happy family. This was Big Brother, and I appreciate that. Even though, like you said, it got toxic at some points, but I think the whole package of the whole season, I think, was good.
What made it dynamic and made it interesting for me, especially near the end, was the cast. So I do want to say that, like, if you're hearing us say this season wasn't great at the start, what always had me coming back to it was we had some characters who were making it really enjoyable, and I know those characters differed for sure from us production, also for other people. But at the end of the day, I can't say this was bad. It was a season. It was good as a season. So it's like I look back on it being like, let's do some things differently. Let's hope things go differently for following seasons. But I can't hate you.
Yeah. Also, I just want to address this because I feel like the biggest stigma of the season was the discussion of pre-mades and pre-games. And you couldn't escape it this season. And it was one of the most infuriating things for me to bear witness to. So this is me defending my girls. The whole stigma that Mackenzie, Lachlan, Blake were some pre-made. Not true. If anything, the only kind of stunt casting I ever did was put Blake and Lachlan on the season together, as well as Quincy and Alana. Because I wanted at least two people who genuinely knew each other that could kind of do it, but I also wanted to bring in vices. Mackenzie was never put on to help Blake or Lachlan. Mackenzie was put on to bring a vice to Lachlan because they never got along, and so I think, they can be mad at the situation in itself, but Mackenzie saw the position, saw, these people that she hadn't played with in many, many years. And instead of kind of rehashing old beef, she did this smart thing in that situation and has rekindled that, have this person that she did not stand 5 years ago and be like, well, what am I going to do in this situation? I know you. You can bring even Joe into that as well. Joe knew Blake and Mackenzie. Never were they ever kind of closely intertwined together, but they knew each other many, many years ago. So you're just given that opportunity of like, what do you do with that kind of thing when it's presented to you in a game? Because you can't escape it sometimes. But there was no pre-made. I said in the jury chat as well, the only pre-made that was ever done was a prior series cast all applying together and trying to like hack the system to all play again together. But we have little birds in our ears, and we talk to other games, and we make sure that those things do not happen for those exact reasons. I think just the difference was y'all are mad that the one pre-game ended up making it further than the other in Atlanta Quincy, and so y'all be mad as much as you want. But they played the game and they played it really well. So that's all I'll say on that note. With that being said, I think that's a perfect pivot to bring in our finalists, our lovely pre-game people. All right, please welcome our finalists of the season, Blake and Joe. Let's see, my computer's really laggy, so we'll see how long this takes. Bam, bam. Okay. Hello, finalists.
Hello.
I'm waving, but you can't
There
see
we
it.
go. I believe you. How are we doing? How are we? Final thoughts before we get into this lovely winner reveal?
I'm just feeling very nervous.
I'm tired. I'm hungry. Let's go.
We're just. Any final thoughts from you about the season? Any last words or potential last words for you?
Just that I guess I had a very fun time being brought back. I'm sorry that I didn't get your season canceled for the third time in a row. I may have caused a train wreck season, but I guess I didn't get the season canceled. So third time was not the charm there, but maybe, it was all for the best. So I had fun. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course.
So coming back to a Nathan hosted game was a lot of fun. Something I definitely missed from a few years ago.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, this was like a preseason wet dream of mine to have, to see you two do so well this season. I mean, obviously, I know both of you. Blake, I've hosted you, I mean, probably 4 or 5 times. Joe, I've hosted you more than any other house guest in the history of me hosting you. I've just known you for a very long time. And so, like, I think one of the things that I mentioned before in this series has a really bad reputation for, I bring back a lot of these people that I hosted in the past, people that haven't played in 5-6 years. I like to see how they do in a new era, and they never do well. I've only had maybe a handful of people who've beaten their placements from my other games like Big Brother Universe. So both of you beat your placements pretty significantly. Blake really doesn't have a placement because he was in 2 canceled seasons. Fine. You can only go up from there, really.
To be fair, I do think I was evicted in one of them. I do think I was evicted the second week.
You were second boot in Supernova.
Second boot.
Yes, sir. So no, I'm really, really proud of you. I mean, this has been, like I always wanted to see like an old school versus a new school. And this is the first time in which the old school finally prevailed. And so like, to me, I'm just like, yes, find like, maybe they do still have some tricks in them. And it really showed. This season was very old school Big Brother org feeling to me. So took me back for sure. But yeah, thank you all for a great season. Let's get down into it. It is time to reveal the winner of One Up Big Brother Season 3. Good luck to both of you. Here we go. First juror was Nicole, and Nicole has cast her vote for Joe to be the winner of One Up Big Brother Season 3. After Nicole, we have, not Brandon, John. John has cast his vote for Blake to be the winner of One Up Big Brother Season 3. We are now tied 1 vote Blake, 1 vote Joe. After that, we have Brandon. Brandon has cast his vote for Blake to be the winner of One Up Big Brother Season 3. It's 2 votes Blake, 1 vote Joe. After Brandon, we have Ella. Ella has cast her vote for Blake to be the winner of One Up Big Brother Season 3. Following Ella, we have Pat. And Pat has cast his vote for Blake to be the winner of One Up Big Brother Season 3. Following Pat, we have Lachlan. Lachlan has cast his vote for Blake, which means congratulations, Blake. You are the winner of One Up Big Brother Season 3.
Congrats, Blake.
Woo! And
Oh my
you-
gosh, I'm
Phenomenal game.
so
Phenomenal game.
excited. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Blake, I will, I loved fucking around with you this season. Obviously, we have that dynamic. It's a good dynamic to have with me. You played
Yeah.
probably the dominant games we have seen in this series thus far. Don't let anyone ever take that away from you. I got really scared with this jury that they weren't going to reciprocate that. Holy hell, from start to finish, it was, seriously fantastic. I had high hopes for you coming into this season. You just exceeded them tenfold. Seriously, such an impressive game on your end.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And Joe, right back at you, Also,
I really didn't know if I was going to win. I was so worried. I had no idea how those votes were going to go. I was so sick all day today. I was like, this is the longest day of my life.
No, but
I
you
mean-
should absolutely feel proud. It was literally like I know both of you. Like I know of you because obviously I was around in the universe. Joe, I've played with you a bunch of times, and obviously the moment I saw light switches applying, I was like, hold on, this is a blast from the past. But it's still amazing to see two people who I know of, who I know that were strong players in the past, come back and have changed games. Obviously, it's been some time, but still give me that same sense of go get it, girl. You're doing it, as I had 5 years ago or so.
Yeah, Blake, I think you played such a phenomenal game of positioning. Like you'll see in the postseason when you read like the charts and stuff, you never left the top 2 of my rankings. You were always like at the top of the house in my eyes. Like you weren't like outwardly as dominant as like Pranoy was last season, but you were always so well positioned and always knew what to do to get yourself to this point, and you executed on that, and I can only applaud you.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you, Joe, too. I want to make sure Joe gets his flowers in this moment because congrats to Joe.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you again so much for a great season, and congratulations again, Blake. Let's see how the other people voted. Let's see if it's going to work. All right, JD voted for Joe. Mackenzie voted Blake. And Donica also voted for Blake, which means you were at a 7-2 vote. Seriously,
Oh my gosh.
Good
Thank you
job.
guys so much.
good job. Walking away $150 richer. That's
Oh my
kinda
gosh. It's actually 210. It is more Canadian, guys. Like, oh my God, my bird's very excited about this too.
Does that mean I have to pay you more?
No. Well, it's less for you, but more for me. Like your $150 American, I think transfers over to 210 Canadian. So like,
Oh, period.
guys,
That's mean it's it's less valuable in Canadian dollars.
yeah.
Oh.
Well, no, it's more valuable in Canadian.
True, right? Sorry, I'm a dumbass.
No, it's okay. But yeah, I'm very excited about this. I'm going to be using it if anyone's curious, because I don't know if you get scared, but I have to apply for Teachers College tomorrow. So I will be using this money to apply for Teachers College. So thank you.
Of course. All right. And here comes probably the most exciting part about closing any season. It is about giving the awards. The awards are always a really hard thing to do. We really dissect it and go through them all, trying to figure out who really deserves each one. If you don't receive an award, it doesn't mean that we hate you. or we forgot about you. Just certain awards just warrant certain people getting the certain awards. So, yeah, let's get to it. Yay.
Nathan, can I announce my co-host favorite because I have to
Oh
dip
yeah,
in a couple.
before we do that, yeah, Panino and Sol, if you want to do your host favorites, your production favorites.
I don't really have a rant prepared, but there was a couple people I really liked, but my favorite probably by the end was probably Donica. I think I loved everything they brought from an entertainment standpoint. They were always interesting to watch. They were always fun in the diary room. I loved everything they brought. My favorite was Donica.
Me and Sol are on the same wavelength. Donica was just such a joy to watch play. And towards the end, I was like, okay, but it's time to pick someone to root for. If I had to pick someone, I think at the time I would have picked Donica. So Donica, I'm sure you're listening. Congrats, because you made me enjoy the season. I think you made a lot of us enjoy the season. All players did, but Donica really is like a joy really watching you play. So congrats to you, Donica.
Yeah. Good job, Donica. All right, let's get into this. Our first award of the night, NPC of the season. Low impact, low threat. They were just kind of there. I'll be honest, this award was actually a lot harder to do than I expected. Never a good thing, but when I'm having to double cross my mind on who to choose for this, that's a little scary. I will say there's one house guest who really just symbolized just NPC. I think their existence on this season was as surface level as their gameplay. And I think they were just happy to be there, wishing everyone a good morning, even if it warranted no responses ever, like a typical NPC would. Our NPC of the season is JD. Here's the thing. I really like JD. At the very beginning of the season, I had a one-sided beef with this kid. I could not stand him. And you'll see in my cast assessments where I'm just like, I've never in my life of hosting not understood a house guest more than him. So confusing. Because he was social, but no one wanted to work with him. And they literally treated him as an NPC, just kind of like, well, he's there. I will say once JD got evicted, I started to hop aboard the JD train. So you know what? All things happen for a reason. It just took being evicted for me to finally warm up to this one. Good job, JD.
Yeah, no, JD, me and you go way back. We started playing when I was a small little 13-year-old getting into orgs. And I do remember you back in the olden days. So you applying for this one, I was like, it's time to have JD again. Again, like many players this time around, diametrically opposite from the way that you played years ago. Still, I was one of the first people to be on said JD train, but you did get NPC, which isn't the best, but we still really enjoyed you. We still really, it was interesting, but still, thank you for playing because you brought more to the season.
For sure. Up next, we have our arcade wild card. Unpredictable, chaotic, wild strategy swings. I really think, I'll be honest, this season was kind of cut and dry in terms of the strategies and where things needed to go. I will say, though, there was like one house guest that stood out to me who was genuinely willing to take the risks and tried and was really easy to like clock a lot of the power structures early on in the game, and it was really self-aware. And I think at any given moment was willing to shake up the game, which you don't really see in such like a powerful structure that was kind of established within the game. For that reason, our arcade wildcard is going to Donica. Yeah, Donica, I generally feel like your game was, it was fun. I really don't know what else to say. I think you're gag.
It was fun. I can speak English. It was fun. Literally, it's if we needed to expect something to happen, the first person I would have gone to is like, if I need the game to be shaken up a bit, Dawn. That's where my mind went. So absolutely deserving of this award.
Sure. Good job. Up next, we have our hidden Easter egg, an underrated, low-key, and impactful person who's in this game. We had a lot of pretty prominent players this season, I will say. So trying to narrow it down to a house guest who might have been overshadowed or underappreciated was kind of hard. But I do think I settled on probably the person who truly deserves this award. And I think, their time in this game, though short, I think they provided enough where they deserve some flowers because I really enjoyed them. One, like such a sweetheart. And for that reason, the hidden Easter egg is Nicole. I love Nicole. I think, we had such a cast of rotted, terrible humans. And then there was Nicole, who was just genuinely, for the most part, a really good little nugget within this cast of rotten eggs. I think it was funny because, she kind of had her comeuppance when it came to like the whole Quincy fight. And I was like, oh my God, there she goes. This is her moment. But I just think her game never really got the leverage it needed. But it was enough to where I'm like, this is somebody who was a little underappreciated, underrated this season.
I'll echo what Nathan said. I think looking back on the season, it's like a lot of the moments of the season were overshadowed by, I don't want to bring up the expulsions, but the expulsions and this and that. But when you really go looking into some of the players, you're like, wait, that person did that. And basically it's like, if I do have to say that coming up to the triple, it was hold on, Nicole's here, Nicole's doing things. So for me, it's absolutely deserved. And also altogether, Nicole, you played a great game with what you were given, and as Nathan said, very underappreciated. So we love you, Nicole.
For sure. Up next, we have our stand-up comedian, the funniest player in the house, whether intentional or not. There's a lot of funny little people this season. I was giggling, I was hooting. If it was up to me, I'd probably put Dolan there. Dolan, there was no house guest that I think has made me crack up more than Dolan. Every single thing that he did made me cackle. I wish to God I could give him this award because he was so unintentionally funny. Where, we talk about when he did his little voice reveal in the baby girl. We talk about just his presence in the one-on-ones just being so freaking, I don't know. But we have to talk about the actual comedian of the season. And this person made the VL satellite like their bitch. Their kind of timing, their awareness, but still being able to keep it funny made me just hoot and holler. I remember telling this person, I'm like, send that to the VL. That is funny. That is some funny shit. For that reason, our stand-up comedian is Mackenzie. Mackenzie just has like kind of what I consider my kind of humor. So everything that came out of her mouth, yeah, I was probably laughing. Yeah, I was giggling. It was so unforced, so natural. It's so dry, which is just, to me, the best kind of humor that there is, where you don't have to take yourself too seriously and can poke fun at yourself in the process.
Mackenzie, you obviously everyone on host team has their own perceptions of like how they would play, how they wouldn't play. I never played the game you played, but that aside, everything that you did, every time I looked into your VL, your diary room, everything that I saw you interact, it was like funny person. And so you won't be over with that. You really won't be over with that. So while I don't really agree with the game, I completely agree with this one because if I needed laughs, just click on Mackenzie's DR.
Yep, agreed. Congrats, Mackenzie. All right, up next we have our DR star. This goes out to the person who had probably the most consistent DR, where we as production, we were getting fed. We knew this person's game from the inside out. They were giving us content. They were giving us their whole entire game plans, their strategies, their wild thoughts, their, even quips. Everything of their game was on center stage for us to be able to assess. And we had fun listening in on it. So for that reason, our DR star is going to John. John made the DR kind of like a second little home for me and production team, pretty much. Like, he did several voice notes, was always keeping us in the loop on his game. We never had to really wonder what was going on in John World because he told us it all in the DR. So good job, John.
I always enjoy someone who overuses their DR. So if you wanted to make Panino happy, overuse your DR and just spill everything. So yeah, John just did that. So it was always like, what's happening in the game? If you want to know, we go to John. At least for John's perspective.
All right. Well, good job, John. Up next, we have our comp champ. I don't think this needs any introduction. There's one house guest that I believe tied the record this season, just from start to finish. Lachlan, our comp champ of the season, truly dominant. And I don't think everyone even saw all of the comps because he also won 2 of the Nightmare competitions as well, which even further increased his competition wins this season. I think he's on par with Soul and Zach in total competition wins in 9, although that could be completely wrong. Don't quote me.
That is completely wrong. Sorry. He did get 7. That is 7 is what he got.
Okay. Well, I lied. Don't listen to me. But that's still unbelievably impressive. All things considered, considering that Soul and Zach made it to the final 2, of course their comp wins are going to be a little bit more fluff. But for someone to win that many comps and still make it to final 6 is crazy.
Maggie, I see you fighting me. I think you have 7. I will check because I need to put you on the records page. But still, you'll have a spot on the records page because 7 is hard to beat. 7 is a number that's hard to beat. So it's he's calling me dyslexic. Anyway, as seasons go on, you'll still be on there because still you your game. Not many times our games helped by winning comps. Your game was. So congrats with that.
All right. Up next, our social wizard. What I consider, this probably should be one of the more core awards, because in Big Brother, one of the most important factors in being able to do well in these things is be social. Though I think a lot of people tend to see social as just kind of surface level. Look at me, I'm being social. I'm talking to these people. I'm active. That's not what makes a good social player. Sure, you're being social, but what are you doing to really capitalize on the social bonds that you're making? I think there's one house guest. There's actually a few that I think could qualify for this category. But I think the one that I chose on played the most consistent social game where every single bond they made, they knew exactly what to do with them and when to get rid of them and dispose of them and kind of suss out people correctly on who was not with them. Probably one of the best social players this series has ever seen. For that reason, that's going to Blake. So, yay, Blake.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
There were some faults. I will say the Pat eviction, the Pat blindside, maybe a little falter in socialness, but that's okay. We pretend that doesn't happen. Overall, though, that beginning phase, dominant, pure dominance on your end. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course. Up next, stealth player, played in the shadows, still made it deep. This is a player who was never the most prominent by any means, was never in the forefront of the narrative or the story that was going on during the season, but knew their position well enough to where they were able to hide in the shadows well enough to utilize the position they were in. They were in a lot of cookie jars all at once, but was never fully clocked for doing that. I think they played one of the most impressive games. It was never a floater. They did just enough. They knew their position. And I think it ultimately bit them in the butt eventually when people started to exchange notes and such. But this person was my winner pick preseason for a reason, because I know their game. I know this is how they play. Unfortunately, they were with a cast that just clocked it a little too soon. For that reason, our stealth player is going to be Pat. Yay, Pat. Woohoo! Yay. I don't even know. Is Panino still here?
Ooh, hi.
Oh, I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
No, I do want to say about Pat. Just also, I don't know what the awards are, but I usually agree with Nathan, so I don't really fight with him. Pat, I do want to say about your game. It's one of those games where I was like, hold on, something is happening there. So at the end of the day, when you were evicted, I was a bit sad because it was like we were getting good gameplay from him. And so, just the only thing that I have to say, you brought your best to this game. So please be proud. Please be proud.
Mm-hmm. For sure. All right. Next, we've got the Jury Whisperer. This award goes to the juror who I believe had and held the most influence in a lot of the decision making that went on throughout the jury phase, the jury roundtable, and following the live Q&A. There's one juror who I genuinely believe was going to flip the vote. I up until the votes came in, I thought Joe was winning the season. I really did. And it came from this one house guest really smearing Blake's game. And really people were biting at it for the longest time. And I was really fully certain and confident that things were about to shift. For that reason, though things didn't go to plan and he ended up having a change of heart, I do have to give it to John. John really made the jury his bitch. He was on a full throttle, full steam ahead mission to ensure Blake did not win. And, you know, it didn't work out.
You voted out so early.
But yeah, no, I mean, he definitely had the most and held the most influence. I think he went into it thinking, I don't know. But yeah, going to John.
Hey, listen, if you're still able to play the game and influence people to some extent in the jury, that's like, even when you're out of the game, being a good player, that's huge props to John. Really, it's just very congrats, because holding that type of influence once the game is over for you and for the other jurors, that's really commendable.
Yeah. I think once John got evicted, because John is such a gamer, once he got evicted, he turned the jury into his new game, and was playing his own version of Big Brother within the jury house, for sure. Up next, a Respawn Master got knocked down over and over and kept getting back up. I really think, and I had to fight production on this award in particular, because to me, this award is so much more than just a house guest that gets nominated over and over. It's about like an underdog who really overstayed their welcome. Their positioning in the game was never phenomenal. They were constantly being on people's minds as someone to target. And so many times within the game were they the target. People wanted to get them out. You know, there was a good chance that this person was going to go out several times. They won the right comps. They knew exactly how to maneuver in those kind of moments. It's not about the nomination. It's about they escaped being evicted so many times within this season, and they were the epitome of the underdog this season for making it as far as they did. That's got to go to Danica like Monica. Biggest underdog this season, 100%. I cannot believe Danica made it to third place, let alone to that spot. I thought Danica was a dead man walking. First, second week, whenever Brandon's HOH was for a little bit, I thought he was toast even more so in Final 7, that first round of the triple, because that vote was pretty solidified on Danica up until like the last second. And then he really had to win his way out from there to get to where he needed to be. That's a Respawn Master in my eyes.
For me, Danica's mid game really was where I really pinpoint, the best part of Danica's game. And so the way that Danica maneuvers around the mid game was for me, what really gets him this award, because he was able to avoid any type of targets. Sure, people still have had Donica on the radar, but not to an extent where it had him in danger until the end game, which he made. So congrats to you, Don.
We can even go before that as well. Like, I forget when this was, but like Donica, like over in his DR, sorry, airing your dirty laundry, like crying, being like, because he was having so many people kind of weaponize and utilize certain things to use against Donica, John in particular, that really got into Donica's head. And like, he was like the kind of like laughing stock for a very long time and was kind of the most susceptible to being kind of mind fucked with, which I felt horrible about. But again, he persevered. So, clock it. Anyways, up next, our master strategist. Big Brother is a strategy game at its core. You have to walk into this game with a strategy in mind, and not only that, the ability to adapt to whatever's coming your way. There's a lot of people who walk in with a very surface line strategy, people who kind of know what they're doing, but kind of run with the waves and kind of move with the groove or whatever. One house guest, their strategy was fully in depth. It was, a dirty strategy at times for sure, but they knew exactly what they needed to do when they had to do it in that beginning stage of the game. For that reason, our master strategist this season is going to go to John. John had this game on a pussy lock in the very early stages. His trust ranking average was unbelievable. Like, you could not clock the way that this man, like his grip on the game in the early stages was phenomenal. I just think he knew exactly what to do, and I think he started to lose sight of that as the game progressed. And I think the only hindrance in his strategy was people were inevitably going to clock it. He was so kind of good that that's where his fault lied. That's what I'll say on that.
John, there's a reason why you were on the top of the power rankings, why you, in production sides at least, were really like on your path to win at the start game and going through the start of the middle. So for like the first half, there was like a specific reason why you were on top, and it's this, because you handled your strategy completely well. And I'm sure people know this. I'm sure people are aware of this, but John was on the top of the trust rankings for a big while. It took until like 2 or 3 cycles before John's eviction, even less, maybe 1 or 2 cycles before John's eviction, for John to dip. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, the only time John wasn't first was the cycle where John was evicted. So there's a reason for that, and for that, I think, John, you really handled your strategic positioning really, really well. So for that, congratulations.
For sure. Congrats, John, our strategist. Up next, we have the heart of the house. This one was pretty easy to do because, again, like I said before, this was a rotted bunch of people with rotten hearts who brought nothing but a lot of toxicity into this game. Just kidding. No, but there was one house guest who really was, everyone loved her. You can't not love her because she was like the only like genuinely outwardly nice person in this game. She wore her heart on her sleeve. She was such a delight. That person is going to go to Miss Ella. Genuinely the heart of the house. I think her eviction is the only one where I feel like everyone collectively was sad. I don't think anyone really wanted to see Ella go. But you can't deny that her energy was, she really, in a place of a lot of divisiveness, she kind of was that glue that held them together. So
Ella, it's a bit of a victim of what one would define a bit of a steamroll between the 2 triples, but still at the end of the day, I agree with Nathan. Like, there's nothing to be said, and it was always just, yeah, I don't have words because basically Nathan said all of them, so I will shut up.
Yeah. All right, up next, we have the biggest blind side of the season. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the one that got me most. Not that I didn't see it coming, I just didn't see it happening then. I think, you could make a case for John, or you could make a case for potentially, well, no, really just John. But I think John had his comeuppance of coming up eventually, and I don't see it as like a true blindside when I think the entire house pretty much had rallied against him at that time. For me, and for that reason alone, I think this person left too soon. Or Pat's eviction, to me, was the biggest blindside. I don't think Pat necessarily saw it coming. Even production, we were on our toes during the triple because it kept going back and forth. Like, I just remember being like, I don't know. And I do think like that was probably one of the bigger misplays of the season, was Pat leaving so soon. On some people's end, I think. But yeah, that's my hot take on that. I think he was the biggest blindside of the season.
I don't think that's a hot take. I agree. And I am sorry, Pat. I still feel bad.
I think it all ended up working out. I will say everything worked out the way it should. But I don't know. I think
Got a little sketchy there. Got a little sketch.
I got a little nervous for you there, Blake.
I
Blake
did.
especially.
Me too.
So
Nothing to
All
say. Yeah.
up next, we have Fatal Error. Made the move that instantly destroyed their own game. This one I think was the hardest one to do, but I think looking back on it, I think we all kind of collectively agreed on one move, or maybe one HOH, that was so dumb. I think it ruined the trajectory of this person's game as well as another's, and really just a bunch. In that, let's do it first. The worst move of the season was Brandon's entire HOH ring. Here's what I'll say with that. I think Brandon going after Quincy was one of the dumbest things ever. I always saw Brandon as someone who was very clearly on the bottom of the Gensa, or someone who was riding the coattails of a lot of more dominant strategic threats. I think utilizing Quincy and Alana would have really benefited Brandon long term, really. And then we had John, who was also working with Alana and Quincy. And I think, John getting rid of them too was so stupid when they were such like a easy shield for the other Jensen members to kind of turn their gaze to. But once you got Quincy and Alana out collectively kind of back to back, that left John pretty much fully vulnerable. It left Brandon fully vulnerable, because once you get John out and Brandon defending John, and it just became this a little domino effect from there. I think that was probably the biggest misread of the season, was really going after Quincy and Alana, when I think that should have probably stayed in the game a little bit longer to ensure Brandon, John, even Ella's kind of long-term stability within the game.
Coming into the triple, I think the best choice would be to make sure that you're protected on both sides of the house, especially with the fact that the sides were very well defined this time around, especially during that mid-game period, like end of pre-jury, start jury. So I do agree with that. I do genuinely think that Brandon's better choice would have been to find a shield also on that side of the house.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to like, this is like you keep around like the JDs and Mackenzies of the game. You need those shields, you need those bigger targets in front of you in order to, I don't know, but I digress. Sorry, Brandon. Apologies. All right, Power Duo, the two who controlled the house like a co-op campaign. No surprise here. These two really dominated this game from start to finish. They walked in as a duo, and it was a duo with a lot of good dynamics to it. They weren't just kind of like circle jerking each other the entire season. There was a little bit of pushback here and there, which made it such a good duo, because each had their own agenda and they had to figure out what they needed to do with it. And there was times where one of them was in their dare being like, I want to get the other one out, which made it just a really fun duo to witness. And that's got to be Blake and Locke. I think this was like the most dynamic duo. I think, they have such a tight-knit foundation coming into this season, but I still think it challenged them at times. And even Lachlan was cracking me up being like, I need to get Blake gone out of this game right now. So there was always kind of that brotherly little love there.
Can I just say, I truly expected Lachlan to be evicted in the first 3 weeks of this game when we joined. I could not have expected to have this much fun playing, and I genuinely had a blast playing with Lachlan. The fact that he is even Mackenzie talking about evicting me at Final Four, I think that is, I'm glad it didn't happen. Fuck, I wouldn't have had fun if it happened. But the fact that that was kind of the energy that we had between the three of us, I think really made the season enjoyable. So yeah.
It's like icon 1, icon 2. It's genuinely, it's two people who I knew coming into the season. I knew how they played, but just to see how they benefited from each other and where it got them to that, hell, one of the two is staring right below me. Congrats, you win the season. And so it helped you, it helped Lachlan, it helped both of you, and it was just amazing to see. Again, really dynamic and really helped the season thrive. And both of you games, because it got you somewhere, got you towards the end, both of you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, up next, we have best boss fight, or easier way to do it, best rivalry. This rivalry. This is
I'm finding it. He's finding it.
It was probably the first what I consider real rivalry this season has seen, or series has seen. Rotted for the worst ways. I hated witnessing it, but I couldn't deny that it was kind of enjoyable to watch at times. I was kind of like, who's going to come out? Who's going to, show on top here? Here. It's going to be Alana and Quincy versus Lachlan. I think Lachlan was like kind of the big bad wolf to Alana and Quincy's underdog story, trying to be in the making. Here's the thing. The two of them never really did anything wrong, but they pissed Lachlan off to a degree that for no reason, really. I mean, they just weren't really good at the game. No shade to either of them. I think they just lacked the awareness in how to position themselves and adapt. And I think Lachlan kind of just enjoyed, taking information that was given and making it kind of a spectacle and pushing them down. I don't know. It was such a one-sided rivalry that became like a genuine rivalry that it was interesting to watch, but fun to watch at the same time. I can't even deny that, even if like the reasonings behind it were a little kind of like why.
I thought this rivalry was going to be Alana and Solid Food.
Oh.
To bring it back on track, I do have to say this rivalry was just two chihuahuas barking at a wolf, and it was just, and it's always so funny to just see Lachlan get into these rivalries and fights with people so adamant about Lachlan's this, Lachlan's that, and Lachlan's just like, sure. And Lachlan didn't really have to do much. The Lachlan was playing the game better, and I think the fact that when you're louder, sometimes it doesn't help your game. When you're louder, sometimes it doesn't help your game. So I think that with Alana and Quincy being a bit more this Lachlan that, it just. Helped Lachlan a bit solidify his demeanor. It's like sometimes it's better to not start rivalries and fights, and this is a very nice example.
Sorry, I'm still giggling. Alana versus Solid Food. That's funny.
Blake, you got us.
Okay, but yeah, congrats, I guess, to this award. I don't know if there's a congratulations I have to do this one, but fun to watch. Oh, yay. Okay, the fun time. Okay, so those were some good awards. Playtime's over. These are now the core legacy awards, the awards that define the game. If you get one of these awards, you're walking out of the season, I don't know, what's like the closest thing. You're lucky to get one of these awards. These are hard awards to get. They're kind of the coveted ones. It takes a lot to get them. You really got to push. So So congratulations to everyone who potentially gets the Core Legacy Award. Without further ado, it's time for the real awards to start. Buckle in. The Ultimate Alliance, the most dominant group who dictated how the story ended. Well, we can go even further, how the story started. There was literally one alliance, and there's maybe a couple others that could have been in consideration, but there's no denying this alliance grabbed the game by its balls and just dragged it alongside them for the first half of this game. All of them ended up making it to the jury or in the final 2 seats. Truly dominant. They were loyal to each other, and then once the time came, it became cutthroat. Everything that makes a good alliance. They knew what they had to do to get to where they needed to go. For that reason, Jensa, our little Jensa 6. I think that's everyone, right? I hope I didn't miss anyone, or else that'd be really.
That is everybody, yeah.
Thank God. I was second guessing it for a little bit. So yeah, Jensa had to have been probably the most dominant alliance at this series. Well, that's not true. The Pretty Committee exists for a reason. But like of a group that was this large in size, you always get a little worried about how this is all going to play out. And so I'd like to propose the question to like everyone in the alliance and their DRs all the time, like, where do you think you stand within this alliance? When you have an alliance this big, someone is bound to be on the bottom. Someone is bound to be in the worst position. I always wanted to see if there's any self-awareness on these people to be like, okay, where do you think you stand? What's your gauge on this? But I genuinely think, as a group, these people stayed relatively loyal to one another until it came down to we were in jury and it's like, okay, we have to start cutting one another off. And then it became a really fun time. I loved when they started all going after one another. Really good show. So maybe the pre-jury a little snoozy, but
I would like to defend the snoozy pre-jury era and just say I feel like as a player, at least, I was having a lot of fun talking in that chat with Jensa. I feel like there was enough of this stress every week that there was this other half that I feel like we always felt like we had to win in HOH. I don't feel like it was ever we're just walking this through. I feel like it ended up being that looking back, but in the moment, I did not feel like we were steamrolling until I looked at the stats and I was like, okay, well, we've won the first 4 of the first 5 or whatever. Yeah.
For sure.
I think, Jensa, I have only one thing to say to you is it's good. Don't worry. It's all good things for me. But for me in the pre-jury, while yes, it was a snooze fest, I'm going to defend you. I'm going to say that it was still interesting because sure, you have a big alliance. You have an alliance who is basically destroying the game. But it's still interesting to go into that alliance and be like, okay, how are the dynamics here? What's happening here? What's happening there? And I still have to say that it's when there's one side of the house against a big alliance like Jensa, you're not fighting a robot. You're fighting an amalgamation of 6 people who still, as Blake said, I'm sure they were worried every week. It's like, win, go do this, go do that. This has to go our way. And so I do have to say, y'all held it together until you needed to inevitably turn on each other. But I do have to say this was one of the better alliance sweeps. And so literally congrats to you all because it really kept me intrigued. While I don't like steamrolls, this was an intriguing one at least.
For sure. Good job, Jensa. Up next, we have the most raw pre-jur. A lot of raw pre-jurs this season. I think, because of just ping-ponging off of Jensa's dominance, we were left with a lot of pre-jurs who I think were gone too soon, who had a lot of promise to them, who were really, captivating, and who I really wanted to see play out this season. Unfortunately, we had a big bunch of people who just got their time cut short early. I'm looking in the jury to see what they are saying right now. Let's see if they're right. But there's one house guest who I really think I thought was going to take it really far. I thought there was one person who, in their short time in this game, gave me everything I needed and even more. So for that reason, our most raw pre-jur is going to go to Starla. Starla is just I can't believe she got evicted as early as she did. Her downfall to me was jarring. She was such a great player, such a great person, so fun to host. And I think, when you, again, like I said, when you have a very rotted season, I think that began to wear off on her. And I think she started getting frustrated, and she didn't want anything to do with this game. And I can't even blame her for it. But she had a lot to give, super emotional, super invested in the game. And I was really sad to see her go that soon. I had a lot of high hopes for her preseason.
I think that Jensa, I think if Starla stayed in, everybody watch your backs because like around the end, Starla was like, okay, I hate almost everybody. Well, no, she didn't hate people, but she was like, okay, now it's time to play the game against these people who are doing certain things, which I don't really like. But I think at the end of the day, it was just iconic to watch her those 4 weeks. And so I do think a lot of us on production were like, it's very sad to see her go this soon. But for the period that she was here, it was literally just iconic moment after iconic moment. I thrived off of Starla in VCs, especially around the end, where she was talking about Mackenzie. And so I think all of that just made me love her even more. So Starla, if you're watching this back, we love you so much here. Thank you for bringing it your all, even in the short time that you were here.
Let's go, Starla. All right, up next, we have our most robbed juror. Came so close, but got a clip before the finale. There's actually a lot of people who I considered for this as well. I think there's a lot of jurors who could have easily made it to the end, having, gotten to the end, I guess. I think there's one house because go, like, without a shadow of a doubt, who, if they made it to the end, they were winning this thing, hands down. I don't know. I mean, it's got to go to Donica, like Monica. Had Donica won that, and it was so close. Like, you have to understand, I don't even think the jurors fully got to see. It was like an 8-minute difference from him and Blake to secure that final HOH. So Donica was literally teetering the edge of the finale, and if he had gotten there, I'm 100% positive he wins this entire thing. Not to like throw it in his face, to be like, you're so close, you came up short, but he did. And I think, he played his story arc this entire season was so fascinating. He was like the epitome of the underdog, and I obviously, you as a host, you love to see an underdog story kind of play out. Came in having no big brother or really knowledge, and really was, maybe not the best strategist or the best player, but was really fun to watch. And that's what made him really intriguing to see. And robbed for sure.
Don, there's a reason you're my favorite. This is one of them. Also, it really, when you got at, I was like, oh shit. I wasn't too sad because still, you got third place in a 20-player game, so still be so happy about that. But I think that it's the entire game was amazing for you. I really love watching your entire game. Barring that first nomination near the start, you again essentially managed to keep yourself safe until, especially in mid-game again. And so I do think that with your amazing game, you getting this makes so much sense. So Don, as I said, I love you. We all love you.
Yay. Go Donica. Okay. Up
Great
next.
game, Don. I think you played amazing. Love.
Up next, we have our fan favorite award. Our fan favorite is walking away from the season with $25, sponsored by Cash App. Fan favorite voting has been going on for the past week. I feel like everyone already has seen the results for this. But there was such a huge little push in that viewing party for this person to win. It was really endearing. She really captured the viewers' hearts this season. And that is going to go to Ella, our fan favorite. Honestly, which makes complete sense to me. I think, when you had so much rot, Ella was kind of like the shining star to the viewers, where they were really rooting for her because she was kind of like in their eyes, their underdog. So congrats to Ella walking away $25 richer, our lovely fan favorite this season.
Congrats to Ella. I do also want to highlight the people who got in second and third place for fan favorite. Second goes to Alana, and third is a tied between Quincy and Nicole. So please, like, I do want to say Ella got this, but to the people that came in second and third, there are people who still love you on the viewing party, and you really show, and you really like it's always an accomplishment that you should really feel proud of yourself if you manage to like turn an entire viewing party in your favor, to be like to the point that they love you so much. As in fact, I always say, I prefer to lose and be loved rather than win and be hated. Depends from people, but still, congrats to Ella, but congrats to the people who got really close to also winning this award.
Well, congratulations, Ella. Sorry, my throat is getting really dry. Too much talking. All right, the main character. This is such a fun award. I concocted this creation in season 1 because when I do orgs and host orgs, I see them as a story and I see them as a narrative. I see each person presenting and their own kind of story arc in the season. And there's always one house guest in my eyes who is kind of the start and finish of the entire season. They pretty much encapsulate the entire storyline. When you look back on a season, who are you going to think about? Who is going to be the first person that comes to mind? Who is the central factor in One Up Big Brother season 3? I think there was really one house guest to me who was the most pivotal, the most out there, different house guests than we've ever seen play before, succeeded flawlessly. For that reason, I truly think there is no One Up Big Brother season 3 without Lachlan. To me, Lachlan is everything that I needed in a player. Coming from season 2, it's why I really wanted to get him on the season. I wanted to bring back some old school flavor into this game, and I knew because I've known Lachlan forever. I know how he plays. I know his personality, and you just bring that energy into any room, it's always going to overcompensate everything else that comes around it. And Lachlan really was that glue that made this season so entertaining. You talk about his first HOH when he just like on a whim nominates Dolan. Like funny, so unserious with his game at times, but at the same time still so effective. Main character, for sure, in my eyes.
Listen, go ahead, Blake.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Because I obviously love Lachlan. I just wanted to say, like, I think what Nathan said there is so perfect. I think I really appreciate that Lachlan was able to still be his like camp self, doing stupid shit, picking fights, and still playing a good game that was like not dragging me down, because I really appreciate it.
No, I have to say, going back to the Chihuahua wolf football analogy, you're getting all these bunch of Chihuahuas barking around the wolf. The wolf also happens to be the funniest character in most moments of the game. So for me, it was just, look, this is what's happening. If you're looking at a scene like that, who are you going to focus on? You're going to focus on the stoic wolf who doesn't give a single shit and who's still able to keep control of himself. And it's literally what I expected from Lachlan. Lachlan applied. I thought this was going to happen. It happened. It was even better than what I imagined. No more words, because this makes so much absolute sense.
Yeah. Anyways, congratulations, Lachlan, our lovely little main character this season. Up next, Nathan's favorite, Me Time, the most important award you can probably get this season. If you're a favorite of mine, you're doing everything right. As like someone who's been in this community for 10 plus years, it takes a lot for me to really, want to open up, because I've seen so many different players come in this world. I've played forever. I've hosted forever. I've seen a lot. And so for me, like, to catch my eye, it's always a good thing. I talk about season 1 where I had Nos and I believe Soul. No, was that right? Who else was my fave? Was it Zach? No, it was Sol.
I'll check. Give me.
No, it was
give me,
Kevin. It was Kevin and Nas. Here's the thing. And then season 2, Onyx, clearly. Onyx was an early out,
Right.
It doesn't have to do with anything with like your positioning, how you play the game. It's about kind of the style of gameplay you bring. And if it's something that's so unique, so fun, so like lightning in a bottle. This house guest, in my eyes, preseason, I had my sights set on them. I was like, I need them on the cast. I don't care, ifs, ands, or buts. I'm just really intrigued to see how they play. They had a lot of promise in their interviews. They had a lot of promise in just the way that they spoke. And like, here's the thing: in an interview, all you want to do is show personality. And I will say, from start to finish, this house guest, lightning in a bottle. I'm really proud of them. I don't know. Blame it on the Irish. Make it 2 Irish people in a row for me. But my favorite house guest is Donica. Sorry. Following suit with all the other people of production. Here's the thing. I initially had this award set for Donica and Blake, but then I had to let my bias. Sorry, Blake, you're leaving without another award here. Here's the thing. I could do Blake, but that would just be bias. Obviously, as someone who's known Blake for the longest time, he was always going to be the person that I was rooting for the most this season. I wanted him to do really, really well. I didn't know anything about Donica going into this season. I didn't know who he was or how he played. And he just exceeded my expectations. Such a fun person, such a good person, chaotic. There was just nothing that you couldn't root for. I think he showed everything that a player could possibly do. It was strategy. It was social. There was heart. There was, a little bit of villainous. Like every single aspect of a good player in my eyes, Donica encapsulated for me. So that's just my 2 cents on there.
Donica, I think the only thing I have to say, state the obvious. You're the favorite player of the host and the 2 co-hosts. That's, I think, all I have to highlight. It's just that I think highlights the game that you played, the amount of fucking enjoyment that we all got from you. So just, I don't think I have to say more because I said when I said my favorites and just when Nathan said now. So just Donica, amazing gameplay for you, and being new to Big Brothers in this. Listen, Nathan knows when I was new to Big Brothers, I flopped. I got first booted 2 times in a row. So already not getting that, but even doing more than that, just please feel so proud of yourself. We all love you, and you really should feel so proud of your game. I'm getting my head and I'm talking a lot.
Good job, Donica. All right, I got 3 more words left for you, and then you are getting sent back to the viewing party.
Oh my God, it's my award! It's my award.
Hero of the season. Like I said, going into the season, I wanted villains. I got that. So having and finding a hero was hard to do. I think there's the case to make. There's a lot of anti-heroes this season, but no one who fully. This is very reminiscent of season 1 in my eyes, because season 1 didn't have any clear heroes as well. However, I think there is one house guest that really was the hero of their own story this season. I think if you look up textbook hero, this house guest kind of is the only one who fits the mold. They played above the chaos. They played with guts and grace. They never gave up. And they really were. There was nothing about their game that even came close to villainous. And I think that's what really separates that is, in a game full of villains, there's really only one house guest that went through this game from start to finish, never once showing any inclination of any sort of villainous tendencies. They were their own hero. For that reason, our hero of the season is going to be Ella. So congratulations, Ella. I really think, she was such like the weird polar opposite dynamic that this cast needed. There's nothing bad you can say about her. She was playing up against some of the dirtiest little players that I've ever seen play before. And she always kept her composure. I mean, she at times got distraught. She was kind of giving up on herself, but she never gave up. She continued to persevere. She continued to push and really tried. And, it's unfortunate she never really got the full underdog redemption story. But there's no denying, like, she was the hero of this season, and she just happened to get slayed by all the other villains in this game.
Again, this was villain galore. So if you loved watching villains, congrats, this was the season for you. But it's always just nice to see a polar opposite to that, and I think Ella encapsulated all of that. So congrats to you.
Ella, I was genuine. You're welcome to come to Toronto anytime. Would love to take you to the bars here, and we can get Domino's after.
Period. All right. Here we go. Villain of the season. So, like I said, and I've said 1,000 times before at this point, I walked into this season, I wanted villains. I wanted villains. This series has never seen villains before. We've seen people who've played a little dirty or may have been like a villain for show. But people who were just genuinely rotted to their root, to their core, just villains, unapologetic about it. For the longest time, I would say Dolan was the epitome of a villain. That man was evil, rotted. He was everything I wanted in a house guest, and that's why I love to talk about him, even though he was, cheating and got expelled. One house guest this season, maybe the dirtiest gameplay this series has ever seen. Dirty in the sense that they weaponized and emotionally manipulated a lot of people. Villainous in the sense that they completely went against production's rules, completely went against production's wishes. Hey, if you want to play dirty, we can play dirty too. But you know what? Does that make you a bad person, or does it make you a good villain? It's one thing to get a cast of people to kind of do your bidding. It's another thing to use production as a weapon, to be like, we need to talk outside the server. For that reason alone, for dirty gameplay and dirty methods, our villain of the season, unashamedly, has got to be John. And here's the thing. I say that with full grace, own up to it. I think John might have been the dirtiest game player we've ever seen. And I think that's a good thing. It's what it's what the season needed. It's what the series needs. But there's no denying that it is what it is. I think the biggest thing, and here's the thing, John is going to set a precedent moving forward in this series of us cleaning up our rules. Because I think he might have studied them so well that he's able to maneuver them in ways at which he could never get punished for any of the methods that he was doing. I had several people come up to me being like, he's messaging me outside the server. What do I do? I'm like, it's not in my rules. It's like a kind of a courtesy. You don't do that in a game. Turning people being like, we can't really trust production. They might do whatever, so we have to do it. Here's the thing. It's just nasty little gameplay stuff like that, where it's like, but you can't really say anything about it because he was following the rule. He was following the rules, but making his own rules in the process to get away with it. And he was just a great manipulator. Really good. I can't even be mad. I can't be mad because he was really good at what he did.
I thought it was camp. I kind of love.
I think so. Listen, John, you're joining our previous two villains, which were Sol and Pernoi, blowing both of the villain games out of the water. And the fact that you're able to get villain of the season in, I'm going to quote Lachlan here. Lachlan said, this whole cast would basically be back for a House of Villains season. True, this was literally just the House of Villains and then some outliers. But to come off on top as said villain, as said the villain, capital T, capital V. Amazing. You made us, again, there's going to be a rules overhaul, but literally, we love you for that. Really, please be proud of this, because I love villains. Whenever I can, I play a villain in this game, and so it's just, I hugely respect people who are able to come on top as a villain, especially when there's more than 5 contenders throughout the season, which I don't think maybe there were 5. I'm not really sure. I should do a little retrospective on this season, but still, you really came on top of that. So please, congrats on everything.
For real. Good job, Joe. All right. I believe this is it. This is the final award of the night, the biggest award of the night, our One Up Legend, also known as Player of the Season, Star Player, pretty much the best of the best. I need to go and preference this first and foremost. If you are a winner or runner-up, you are not eligible for this award. If that were the case, obviously Blake would be winning this award. But since Blake won, there's no other flowers that I can give him. He's walking away $150 richer. He doesn't need the title of being the Player of the Season when he already has the crown to go alongside with it. So One Up Legend. You know, I think this is the most interesting One Up Legend that I've ever had to crown. Because there was a lot of good players. There's a lot of really solid players, and there was a lot of people in contention for me. But the way I see it, I have to put a lot of things into perspective. It's about their start and finish. There does have to be a level of strategy. There's got to be a level of dominance. There's got to be, you know, their placement. Who overall was able to know their position, who knew how to get to where they needed to go, and who did it, you know, unashamedly, and who did it really well. You know, we talk about seasons past. We have Will and JCAF. You know, Will got 5th, JCAF got 3rd. Phenomenal players. You know, there's no denying that their dominance, you know, they were probably the best strategists, you know, two of the best players of those seasons. They deserve that award. I stray slightly in my opinions this season because I think there's one player in my eyes who their core foundation might have not been strategy. I think the way that this person plays the game and played the game worked for them. And I think in a cast like this, that's all you really need. I don't want to talk more about it, but I'm scared I'm going to give it away. For that reason, our One Up Legend, the player of the season of One Up Big Brother Season 3, it's Lachlan. So, okay, here, let me defend this choice. So first and foremost, congratulations, Lachlan. You probably walk out of this with the biggest award possible. I think there's just a difference. You know, there's a lot of people who will go ahead and clock your game being like, there might have not been the most strategy. There might have not been the most socialness. To me, that doesn't make or break what a Big Brother player is. I think with John, there's an argument to be made with him. Great beginning half, but his game had too many cracks to ever fully go anywhere. Donica made it to 3rd place. Great underdog story, but his game was so chaotic and messy along the way. Lachlan, I think your game was so consistent from start to finish. You knew your position. You knew kind of the persona you had to play. And there's no denying. People wanted to keep you around because you were so equipped in competitions. You were such a massive threat. And even within all of that, you were still able to kind of outbeat a lot of these other players. I think it's all about how you know your position. And if there's one thing that you had compared to any other house guest, it was consistency and it was self-awareness. And in my eyes, the best Big Brother players there are have self-awareness in where they stand within the mix and the crowd. You know, 6th place, your lowest placing One Up Legend. But there's just no denying in my eyes that you are this season's player of the season.
Lachlan, I said this before. I think I'm going to have to say it again. The fact that you literally brought the game that I expected you to bring and then some makes absolute sense. Like, as Nathan says, this is the biggest award you could get because it gets you a spot also on the main page of the wiki, along with the winners. So it's like, this is basically us telling you, you played an amazing game, no matter the placement you got. If I'm not mistaken, this is the lowest placer out of all of the One Up Legends, placing 6th. Am I mistaken? I don't think I am. Okay, great. Lachlan, it's it's games I would never play. But it's games that when I see played by other people, as well as you played your game, I have nothing but respect. I know I'm not a great player, which is why when something like this pops up on my screen, I might not agree with how the game was played. I loved every single moment of it. You brought everything that you promised to us. You brought everything that we thought you were going to bring to us, and then some. So genuinely take this part with pride. This, you really deserve it, because again, it's not for everybody, and obviously this doesn't take away from the fact from the winner, but getting best game, getting player of the season pots for me is equally of a great feat. So that's why you're put up as an equal on the main page with the winners. So again, really, really, so much congrats to you. This was quintessentially Lachlan and then some.
Congratulations, Lachlan. Fully deserved. Really proud to give you this award. It's just like, it's a strategy that I'm really akin to that strategy. I've done that strategy 1,000 times over in a lot of my games that I've played. And it reminds me a lot of the last game I played in Big Brother World. I played exactly to a T like Lachlan. And I got like pretty much the same award. So you know what? I respect it. I got master. I was the biggest villain, best strategist, blah, 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 here or there. Anyways, with that being said, our final season rating, 2 stars. Yay.
Couldn't give that extra half star.
No. But you know what? I think this is a solid 2-star season. But here, I think the one thing I want to point out, I think the season has the best chance of getting more favorable over time. And even as I'm doing this awards ceremony, as like I'm about to conclude this season and I'm going to be done for the next few months until next year of not hosting. It's going to be the first time since March where I'm not planning or anything. I look back on this and I'm already sad. I think you start to grow a lot fonder of the season and a cast once it ends. And I think it's because, I've been doing this now for the last 41 days of dealing with all of you. All of you are crazy. And I can't, that's not going to push you any further. I will say the beginning of this game was a mess. And I think kind of the tone that the season had was a little weird at times, but the end game is really what made it for me. We were really edging a 1-star season here for the longest time. And then we got to the end and it was really fun to watch. I really don't know who's going to win. When we saw Pat, Lachlan, JD, scratch JD, when we saw Pat and Lachlan get evicted, I was really on my toes. Y'all are so wrong. Keeping that man in that game, holding him hostage in this game. That is so wrong. And no place here. Anyways, I think it's just, I really do like the season and for what it gave me. And I think for me, I've waited 3 seasons of doing or bringing back this series or, going back into hosting because all I really wanted was to see an old school style game kind of be revitalized and take me back to when I played when I was 16 through 19. Because I missed it. I'm very nostalgic. It's kind of what I do. And I will say, the whole concoction of this season was an homage to the very first Big Brother org that I played, Big Brother Dream World, back in the day, 2016, I want to say that was, 2017. So Dreamscape to me was to bring back kind of that feeling that I had. And that's why I brought back so many of my old school players and old school people, because I wanted to relive, back when I was 16 when I played that game. And y'all did that tenfold. It was the most, back in my body. We had the expulsions, we had the problematic, we had the political discussions and the cancellations and it was really fun. And you know what, as I'm saying this, I'm kind of wanting to give it a 3 stars, just for personal preference for that alone. So maybe you'll see that on the wiki, but we'll see. I'm really proud of this season and thank you for that.
This season's camp. If you like camp, you will like Big Brother Dreamscape Season 3.
I do have to say again, the entirety of production at a certain point, I think for us also, we're living it with you. We're living the heat of the moment. So it makes sense that at a certain point we were like, one, these bitches don't deserve anything but a one. But looking back also on those moments now, you look back and, I'm inclined to probably up this to 3 stars. Again, you'll see on the wiki. But I think this, for me, brought back memories of, my first Big Brother orgs, like what you could see in, what I like to call Nathan and Co. Because, Big Brother, I do credit Nathan for a lot of, Nathan's getting wine. I'll be like typical. Anyway, I do think that this just brought back so many memories from Nathan's org back in the COVID times and other Big Brother orgs that were around in COVID times. And looking back on this season, I do have to say, y'all are not the worst season by a long shot because we were heated. We were angry at people. We wanted people to stay in. I do remember during the first triple, most of us were shouting at you all, do something. We wanted to poke this cast with a stick and have them do something, especially during the triple. But I do think that right now, looking back on it, if we were that passionate about the season, it means that we were invested. It means that you guys got us invested in it. And I think everything helped from the production standpoint. So, I love the twist that we had this season. Also, twist that, weren't able to come to fruition. I'm still salty about Nightmare Week. I'm still salty about the Nightmare Realm. But in general, while y'all really got us angry at certain points and moments, it's looking back, it's like this is a cast, this is a season I'm proud of. We need a break. Thank you, phone. We need a break, as Nathan said. See you all in 2026. We are tired. I clocked out like after cycle 11. I disappeared for a while. I needed a breather. But I do think that for all intents and purposes, it's like, sure, y'all hurt us emotionally a lot during the season, but looking back on it, I look back on it fondly because it was still a season that kept us intrigued, kept us opinionated, and so thank you guys. You really deserve these 2 stars and maybe more. We'll see what Nathan chooses.
Probably gonna be more. We'll see. The wine. Let the wine talk a little bit longer. Tell me to keep drinking.
Think so. Give it a 3 stars.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all that we have for you this season and this year of One Up Big Brother. Holy crap! What a year it has been. We've run 3 seasons back to back since May. I can't believe that we've seen this to fruition. The fact that we've gotten through 3 seasons, phenomenal. I'm really proud of everyone on production for everything that you do, for allowing this to happen, for allowing me to, believe in, a lot of the ideas I have and a lot of the processes. I run you guys like a military at times, but it's because I'm very passionate about how I run these things. I like to consider myself a very budget org. I like to put my heart and soul into a lot of the things that I do here. But I'm also kind of just like a veteran who's been in this thing for 10 years. I know how to run an org. I know how to do it well. So my standards can be a little high at times. But you know what? I think it ultimately reflects on the cast. I think, so long as the cast enjoys the game that they're playing, it means that we're all doing a good job. With that being said, next year we have 3 seasons lined up. I posted about it yesterday. Early next year, we have One Up Big Brother Season 4, Mythos, coming at you live with an all-newbie cast. It'll be a very fun season. We are in the process of continuing to plan it. I'm going to have a lot of fun with the aesthetics of it. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. We're kind of leaving the arcade, but kind of keeping it in. But we're really doing a real fun little fighting game, ancient Asian culture kind of thing. So it'll be fun. Following that, we've got one at Big Brother 5. That name you'll find out later. It'll be a fun one. I'm keeping that one a little bit of a secret for now because I think that one is going to be a really fun one to look out for. Really, really fun twist going on there. Unlike anything you've probably ever seen done in the org community. And lastly, to end off the year next year, we've got one at Big Brother Season 6, Showdown of Seasons. A season that we have been nonstop discussing on the production team pretty much every single day for the last 5 months, what it feels like. Really figuring out what to do with the cast. 4 representatives from each of the first 5 seasons. It's anybody's game. We'll find out. It'll be who's going to be winner takes all in the Showdown of Seasons. Increased $250 grand prize. Pray for my pockets. But it'll be fun. And then after that, we'll see where One Up Big Brother goes from there. But thank you all, Blake, Joe, for a great season. I don't even know if Joe's still on this call, truth be told. I have no access to the stream.
I don't leave.
He's there.
I'm
cool.
sorry.
Sorry, I have to be on the Canva while I'm doing all this, so I can't even see any of the expressions going on the stream itself. Thank you all again for a great finale, for a fantastic season. It's time to send you all back to the viewing party. Blake, send me over your banking information, preferably your credit card number, and everything. And then I'll take that money out of your account. Thank you. All right. Thank you for a great season. It's been One Up Big Brother. And we're going to say adios now. Time for the post-season shenanigans.